Hiya, AMC here. Today I felt like talking about my childhood. I was born in the city, stole a donut from a store because a kindergartner didn't understand the concept of
socioeconomic disparity.
Then the store went out of business 15 years later. But most importantly, I watched a lot of Cartoon Network. Whenever I was a child, a teen, and now as a young adult, every show they made has always had an impact. Most of them are great, some are less than great, so I'm gonna talk and rank all the shows from the 90s, 2000s, and lastly 2010s. We're gonna start with the 90s, and we're skipping these shows, as they're all anthology shows about old Warner Bros. And Hanna-Barbera cartoons. We will be talking about one anthology show, but that's for later. Also, if you disagree with anything I say in this video, then make sure to smash that subscribe button, so I can make another video like this in the future. Now let us start with
Cartoon Friday.
Look who's here, young people. It's none other than Duke Fartknocker.
the show that started off both Cartoon Network and Adult Swim, which is a whole nother story. Space Ghost, the host with the most, is a weird show to talk about because of its premise, its style, its transition to Adult Swim, and the inspiration for many Adult Swim shows that used forgotten Hanna-Barbera characters and did totally different things with them. And even the characters within the show got their own shows, like Brack with the Brack Show and the prototype versions of the Aqua Teen Hunger Force. Space Ghost Toast to Toast is a parody of a talk show, kinda like an animated version of Eric Andre, which was also shown on Adult Swim, which also was inspired by Space Ghost, the guy who's gonna roast. In this talk show, Space Ghost and his friends interview celebrities by making them feel uncomfortable and then going off script. That is, if there was a script to begin with. My favorite episode is where Space Ghost interviews Bjork, because he is just as weird, if not weirder than the show itself.
Yeah.
It later transitioned from the talk show premise to utter nonsense one-off stories about the guys working on the show, which is the consistent style of Adult Swim shows of old. My personal opinion on this show differs a lot depending on what is going on and what mood I'm in. I think the novelty works better in Eric Andre because of the edge that it is live action. I like that every season gets visually more disturbing and chaotic, and the fact that it's also a hidden camera show where they always go over the line. Space Ghost feels safer in contrast, and the humor relies more on the silent awkwardness and its inconsistency, which I know is its charm, but I personally don't vibe with it all the time. I know Space Ghost blows as its hardcore fan, but I don't feel like it's giving off the Cartoon Network vibe. And it makes a whole lot sense when it went to Adult Swim. Heck, the most interesting thing about Space Ghost celebrities to boast and host and close to blah 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 is that the most people discovered that character in this show rather than the actual Hanna-Barbera show. Kinda like Harvey Birdman. This is a B kind of show for me.
I think it's much more along the lines of a fairy tale than it is straightforward science fiction.
Whatever, Professor.
Remember when I said I wouldn't talk about anthology shows except for the one? Well, this is the exceptional one. Unlike these ones, What a Cartoon, created by Fred Seibert, was a show of original pilots that would eventually become most of the shows I'm talking about here. Fred Seibertron would later make another anthology show for Nickelodeon called Oh Yeah!
Oh yeah!
Cartoons, which means he's responsible for jump-starting many careers of many cartoonists. Also, when writing this, I discovered he also made Fred Ritter, because it's in the name. I'm not gonna discuss the greatest CN shows here, because I'm gonna be talking about them either way in the other segments. And personally, I think the most interesting aspect of the anthology are the one-offs. Examples being Larry and Steve, the Family Guy prototype, as it was made by Seth MacFarlane. I guess it shouldn't count as one-off as it became a show, but under a new name with totally different characters and a totally different channel and
Look, this is your landlord.
still haven't retained my weed whacker.
The Adventures of Captain Buzz Cheapley. This one doesn't have anything major facts about it. It was just shown many times on the channel and it's a personal favorite of mine.
Is this the end of our heroes? No.
Mina and the Count, created by Rob Eddy, who also made My Life as a Teenage Robot. This is the only short that got more than one episode in 2 separate TV channels. The other being Nickelodeon's cartoons. You know, I think Rensetti really likes the works of Osamu Tezuka. Malcolm and Melvin. The legendary Ralph Bakshi made this and he hates it. It's kinda like how Danny Antonucci wanted to try to make children's show, but something went terribly wrong.
What should I do with him?
Punish him here, dear.
There are also shorts that feature Dino from the Flintstones, cause we can't forget the Hanna-Barbera roots that this entire studio is based on. It's only fair that I put this show in B, cause half of the shorts are unique and later define the studio that it is today, and the other half is weird shit like Tales of Warm Paranoia.
Filthy children!
Back to the lab again.
Dexter Slab, or as I like to call it, Dexter Slab. It's probably one of the first shows I watched on Cartoon Network. Well, that or Thomas the Tank Engine. I've also seen a lot of it in both English and my native language, Islandska.
This is the A to of Iceland.
This was Genti Tartarovsky first and not the last show he would make for the studio, and it happened to be my favorite of his works. I haven't watched Primal as I'm writing this. This show is about Dexter, boy genius, and the tales of his invention going awry, and his sister Dee Dee fucking everything up with her ballet. Other characters include Mandark, the arch rival to Dexter, and Dexter's parents, mom and dad. There are other memorable characters, but most of the time they appear very infrequently. Sorry Kusa la Goopa Goop.
Bye-bye, you'll never see me again.
The show has such chaotic energy that I feel is very unique to CN itself. Every episode in the first 2 seasons tell these cautionary tales of a boy with great intellect, but every success leads to a greater failure that leads to either the lab exploding and one time the earth itself. It sometimes gets kinda melancholic, which is something Genti is very good at with his other shows. Some of my favorite episodes are the Robot Mom, the Speed Racer episode, and the last episode of season 2 where they go to Japan and we see Genti go full leap. And again, it won't be the last time. There are also 2 recurring shorts in between episodes with Dial M for Monkey and Justice Friends. The monkey one tells about the Dexter Slab monkey who has superpowers and saves the world, and it gets really weird. There's a character who wants to fuck the monkey, and another character called the Silver Spooner, and he sounds like this.
Go no further! Your efforts are in vain! I am the Silver Spooner!
I'm gay!
Then there is Justice Friend, which was Teen Titans Go before Teen Titans Go, and it's kinda genius. They made a rock and roll version of Thor and called him Valhallan. If that's not genius, then I don't know what is. I'm guessing that Justice Friend was popular enough to be integrated into Powerpuff Girls, or Genti just put it in the show when he was working on that show as well. Honestly, I would put this in S if it were not for the 3rd and 4th season, which were renewed episodes after the show ended with the TV movie Eco Trip in 1999. Genti did not work on these episodes. Instead, they were supervised by Chris Savino, who made The Loud House and Did a Bad. The 3rd and 4th season are not the worst thing in the world, and they don't make my blood boil. I'm not a cartoon reviewer.
This film takes place less than a year after the September 11th terrorist attacks.
What the fuck? But they are kinda boring. Classic golf short is a great example of why. There are a few episodes in there that stand out, like the Wacky Races one and the one with the weird anime dude, but that is not a lot. I give this show a high A.
There is gloom and doom. Indeed is womb.
Now, here's Big Bag.
Big Bag is a preschool show that I don't think I have the brain function to dissect because it's a show made for toddlers. Then I realized that preschool shows are like every other form of media and should be judged on how well it functions for its intended audience. But wait, I hear people ask, you are not the intended audience for a show for babies. True, but I was a baby once, so I can use that as a reference. I did watch Story Explorer,
Thomas the Tankin' Dankin',
Sesame Street, Engie Benji, so I think I'm qualified to tell my 50 kroners on the matter. Speaking of Sesame Street, although Big Bag was aired on CN, it was produced by CTW, which would later just be called CW. With that said, Big Bag is just a vanilla version of Sesame Street, which is the weirdest description I can give the show. Next has a very similar format to the Sesame Street season I watched as a kid. You know, the animated intro, the funny animated shorts, and also this guy. Unlike Sesame Street, Big Bag animated sketches are 5-minute long, since season 1 episodes are worth 50 minutes long. That's the length of TV specials. In the end, I think this show is neat for what it brings. The puppets are whatever, but the animated shorts are more endearing to me. B for better than I thought. What really surprised me about this show is that it was aired on Cartoon Network. I saw this show kinda late when I moved out of the city to the country. Although most CN shows I saw after the 90s, I didn't watch them on the actual channel, but that's more of the 2000 retrospective. So yeah, the real... oh shit, the computers... oh my god, the fucking computer's battery is almost dead. I gotta... oh no. So yeah, the real Adventures of Johnny Quest is the version of the character most people are most familiar with. Like this Batman was the most well-known version of the character. The version from Jellystone where he's probably in a relation with Hachi is my favorite one that I didn't know I needed in my life. But yeah, the show is kinda wild. For me, the most real thing about the show is how some subject matters are handled and how characters are written. They're not just archetypes from the old 60s shows, they're well-rounded three-dimensional characters. Okay, Rex Bannon is still an action hero spewing one-liners every second.
Pa always told me that it's not polite to hit a lady, but then again, Miss Julia, you're no lady.
And Hachi, though not as stereotypical as he was in the old show, still has weird quirks that make you raise an eyebrow. But those are very few nitpicks. One of my favorite characters is one of the villain of the show, Jeremiah Surd, a wheelchair-bound man who wants to live in the digital world of Questworld that honestly I thought looked good back in the day, and it's at this point where I learned that I don't mind CGI since Toy Story was one of the first movies I ever saw.
My eyes! My eyes!
Also, even though this was my introduction to Johnny Quest, I still had the interest to do research on other adaptations. I figured out that Rex's daughter was not an original character for the show, but for a TV special 3 years before. And as a character, I was surprised to see that she wasn't a bickering type of character, but nope. She's pretty cool. Also, the show is just a fun 90s action show that I feel like has aged pretty well. A.
Johnny Quest. Johnny Quest. This is the life of a boy named Johnny Quest.
I've experienced my fair share of Flintstones media, a handful of episodes, the 2 live-action movies, TV specials, including The Christmas Carol, and the one where the kids grow up and get married. Barney, your son is fucking my daughter! Bam, bam, bam. I am not sorry for this. And I played that shit-ass PS1 on-rail bowling game, but other times I see the Flintstones in cameos nowadays because Seth MacFarlane Flintstone reboot sounds like a terrible idea.
What's the animal version of an iPod?
Now let's talk Caved Kids, a 8-episode spin-off miniseries about Pebbles and Bam Bam going on magical adventures that are probably their wild imaginations. But then again, aliens, time travel, Johnny Bravo, and Grim Reaper exists, so this might as well be canon. And I don't think I ever saw a single episode where I was a baby child. In this miniseries, they are still children where they barely had characters, so this show has much to live up to for the hardcore Flintstone fans who want that character development for tiny babies who are mostly extension of Fred, Velma, Barney, and Betty's characters' developments. Okay, the show is fine, it's just Rugrats with Flintstone flavoring. It's a rather tame version of Rugrats, a show that got weird a lot. I mean, the show is weird, but not Rugrats TV show weird, and especially not Rugrats movie weird. So in general, this is a fine filler in the background for the children, but nothing mind-blowing compared to the other Flintstone media, like the PS1 game I talked about, and I still own. Maybe, I haven't found it yet. This is a C show.
Sinbad the sailor.
You probably didn't see that one coming. And neither did I. Created by Fred Wolf Films, the same guys who made Puff the Magic Dragon, this show,
Bond, James Bond, Jr.
and other things. Sinbad the Sailor probably has got to be the most obscure Cartoon Network show of them all. It's so obscure that I could only find 3 out of 26 episodes to watch. I'm pretty confident that these 3 episodes give off the vibe and feel of the entire show, unless I'm missing out on an epic overarching plot that hasn't been archived anywhere online. The show tells the many adventures of Sinbad the Sailor, and I think it's kinda neat. The adventures of the characters land on are indeed fantastic, and the main trio of Sinbad, Boy, and Cat are a likable bunch. I thought when I saw the boy, I figured he would be this annoying, golly gee, I'm better than all you scrubs kind of a character, but he's not like that, and I respect that. I also like the theme song a lot.
Sinbad finds mystery and Sinbad finds danger. The fantastic voyages of Sinbad the Sailor.
When it comes to Sinbad the Sailor, the DreamWorks movie and the Comedian were all I knew, and now I can add this on the list. I can't say more about this show because of the lack of accessibility, so it's alright I guess. B. I don't know how a show about a man who lives with his mom and fails to hit on girls is a classic, but it somehow worked. It actually surprises me that the best episodes were the very early ones. One of them being the Scooby-Doo crossover.
My glasses! I can't see without my glasses!
My glasses! I can't be seen without my glasses!
There's also a crazy amount of celebrity cameos later on in the show, and they kinda get out of hand, from Weird Al to Shaq.
Hey, Shaquille?
You can call me Shaq.
Yeah, whatever.
Who appears in the last episode of Season 4. A renewed season, and it's probably the least jarring of the CN renewed seasons. One episode in Season 4 is a crossover with Flintstones, where he wants to have sex with his daughter. Johnny, stop fucking my daughter! Oh, mama. There are actually 2 episodes I want to give big highlights because they are a big character development for Johnny Bravo, which is not something I would think happens in the show. The Christmas and Valentine specials. One tells the story of Johnny's selfishness during the holidays.
Besides, I've got your list right here.
Whoa, give me that!
But Johnny, we came all the way up here so you could ask Santa for your free presents.
Yeah, well, things change.
And the other one explores his potential true happiness, and they make me feel something for Johnny.
1, 2, 3.
Usually I think the show is funny at its best, but a little mad at its worst. There's also Johnny Bravo Goes Bollywood, which feels like a parody animation you would find on Newgrounds, but when you think about it, it fits better than whatever the hell that was. If asked where I ranked it, I would say a very high A.
Oh my god! What's wrong with your face?
Chicken and the cow? Chicken and the cow?
Cow and Chicken is the weirdest show in this retrospective so far. The characters, the art style, the plot, all pure insanity. I guess it was one of those shows trying to write the success of Ren and Stimpy, a show I saw very late and only 2 episodes, so I have no strong opinion on it. In comparisons, I might like this show more. Don't get me wrong, there is something so deranged about the setting here, with everyone being completely insane and the dynamic between the main characters of Cow and Chicken giving off creepy incest vibes. Let's just say if they were human and nothing else changed, it would be more creepy.
Well, you always do. I've been refilling the same carton for years.
It's so funny that the brother-sister dynamic is more weird than the actual devil who has a huge ass. Speaking of, the red guy is obviously the best part of the show because he makes the episodes more fun, and an episode without him is just wrong.
Also, I'm naked.
He's also a recurring character in I Am Weasel, which started off as a segment similar to the monkey and the superhero parts in Dexter Slab, but was more popular enough to last 1 more year than Cow and Chicken. I'm putting these together not just because it's made by the same guy, but more so because it's practically the same show in the same world, and we will get to 2 other shows like that. I Am Weasel is a less insane show compared to the Ox and Fowl show, with a rivalry dynamic of a weasel and a baboon that is more accessible compared to whatever that show is about. You might say it's a nitpicky to say that I Am Weasel can be very formulaic, with Weasel being the best at everything and Baboon trying his best to be good at anything, but if the formula works, then shut up. Both shows get a B. I like them both fine as they are.
The city of Townsville. But enough about that.
Finally, we're getting into the good stuff. I think Craig McCracken is my favorite cartoonist because he made some peak stuff that may go underappreciated, but still has its fan. Like me. While I do like Wonder Over Yonder and Kid Cosmic, I have to be a little predictable and say that Powerpuff Girls is his best. From its characters, music, art style, animation style, and my personal favorite aspect, the weird dark moment that may have traumatized me just a little bit. The episodes like the one where him makes everyone angry at the girls, the one where the girls go to the worst future timeline, and the goddamn zombie magician. Just a little trauma, nothing special. Season 1 to 4 is the perfect run, where you will find your all-time favorite episodes and moments from the shows. But season 5 and 6 is the moment where you could feel the show running out of steam at this point. I know that there's a year gap between season 4 and 5, but I can't tell if it also got renewed. But then I saw Chris Savino's name again, and now it made all the more sense. But in comparison to Johnny Bravo, Forgettable Season 4, and Dexter's boring Season 3 and 4, Powerpuff Girls Season 5 and 6 are the best of both shows, because even if the show itself wasn't as good as the old episodes, there were still a handful of episodes considered classics, one of them being a musical about communism. And I'm a big fan of musicals. There was also the theatrical original movie that slaps really hard. Few specials, including the Christmas one, the series finale, where Mojo Jojo sings a cover of Everybody Wants to Rule the World.
Everybody wants to rule the world.
Yes, this is real. And the 2014 Danced Pants special with a very stylish CGI paper art style. I could go back and watch this show all over again, and nothing would change my opinion on it. This show gets an S.
Once again, the day is saved. Thanks to the power.
But I think I have to talk about the anime and the 2016 reboot show. Otherwise, I feel like I'm missing out something important in this retrospective. The anime called Powerpuff Girls C is a weird one. It's in this weird category that's about anime based on Western media, which I only know 3 shows. Stitch, Beast Wars Seconds, I made a video about it, and this show. So an anime based on an American show that was heavily inspired by anime should be a recipe for success. But by the time Powerpuff Girls C came out, anime had changed a whole lot compared to the animes of old. Like, this show is not bad, it's its own thing and that's cool and all, but it's kind of toothless. It kind of feels like a parody of anime, you know? The most interesting thing about this show is the weird redesigns of the characters. Mojo is nothing but a cloak, Fuzzy Lumpkins is voiced by Scott McNeil, and he could play in the worst thing in the world and he would still be the best thing about it.
No one would dare to fight or challenge me. I am the king of the world.
Him is a jester and voiced by Frieza. Green Gang and the Amoeba Boys have female members for each group, which is based. Apart from the ones I mentioned, everyone else feels this very samey, kinda like most modern anime. If you like how the show looks and you don't feel uncomfortable when watching the transformation, well, the latter part I can't help you with that. You should speak to a professional. And this show is for you. For me, it's a C.
What the hell? Get out of here, jockey!
The 2016 show is one of the most hated shows ever made, and I've only watched 3 episodes before I got the idea for this video. But to get some more insight, I found Blaze the Movie Fan's top 12 favorite episodes since he's a fan of the show, and all the more power to him. And after watching these episodes, I have to be completely honest and say I never felt such emptiness inside. Of all the episodes I watched, I liked 1/3 of one episode, and that is not great. The best thing about this show is the opening that has better animation than the entire show, but gives off a vibe of a totally different show. People like to compare this show to Teen Titans Go, and I think that's a dumb thing to do. My hot take is that Teen Titans Go is a funny show, but I'll talk about that next time. There's an uncanny feeling on how this show moves, sound, and these articles that the show is trying to say something more than it already is. Like the old show did have messages in it, but they were never the selling point. The 2016 show feels kinda like season 5 and 6 of the old show where it was running out of steam, but here it's actually worse. A show that wants to be a character driven but also wants to be like the old show with a punching, and somehow both of these conflicting tones try to appeal to both, but it doesn't do one of those things right. So for me, it gets a D.
We are gonna let you see your tits and vagina. What the hell?
Man, I love this show. Made by Danny Antonucci.
Fuck America.
The man behind classics like Brother Grunt and this animated short about a butcher cutting his hand off. Cartoon Network decided he should make a kid show. That led to one of the most beloved Cartoon Network shows out there, and still to this day is looked back on with fondness. I can't imagine anyone not liking.
I hate Ed, and Eddy.
Forget you heard that. Everything about the show is nigh on perfect for its uniqueness. The animation with the outlines that are constantly in motion. The bajillion sound effects they use for slapstick and such. The show has 13 characters, but no background characters, giving the show this very focused yet surreal setting. Also, the dialogue between these kids are often not written with them being kids in mind. Which leads to the best part of the show, which are the crazy ass quotes.
Life has many doors, Ed boys.
Most of them coming from Rolf.
Poppycock! Curse this monkey ritual of English words!
The only thing I don't like about the show are minor nitpicks. Sarah is the worst out of all the cul-de-sac kids. The first episode felt very weak, but that's just the first episode syndrome.
Beware of the toucher! Serial toucher on the loose!
And Eddy can sometimes be very unlikable. I know that's the point of him, but it sometimes just comes off as not funny and just mean. The only thing I know that fans have nitpicked about the show that I personally don't mind is when the last 2 seasons, well, season 6 is only 1 episode, but let's not get into every minor detail. It changed the setting from the cul-de-sac to school, but I felt like this was an organic flow of time in the S-world, but I guess some fans don't wipe that decision. And so it ended with 6 seasons and a movie. Insert community clip here.
6 seasons and erections. What?
But personally, the reason I love the show is when I saw the TV movie finale, and it might be the greatest finale I've ever seen. I mean, okay, there are others, but this is special for me. The show like this never felt like it would have a finale that would conclude with a character development for the most unlikable main character, Eddy. Like I said, never liked Eddy out of the trio. Ed is a lovable goof and Double D is hella gay. But the fact that this movie exists to give Eddy an arc is overwhelmingly genius in my opinion. Most Cartoon Network shows don't get a bookend finale like this, and that's why this show is perfect and gets an S. Also, fuck the kids are dead theories and check out Bro Show for some cringe.
I'm pregnant.
Take off your pants and underwear if you're wearing any.
What?
Courage the cowardly dog. Courage the cowardly dog.
I didn't watch this show a lot when I was young, so I might almost missed it when it aired and saw like 1 or 2 episodes. The one I remember the most was the one with the macaroni.
More macaroni.
Now I watched it all, and I get all the love this show gets, but I'm not as crazy about them as the rest are. Oh gee, am I Phantom Strider now?
I hate
Courage the cowardly dog.
There are a handful of episodes that I genuinely like a lot, as my appreciation for horror-themed media has increased the older I get. There's the aforementioned macaroni episode, the one with the alligator who turns people into puppets, and also the classic Retrospective Slab. Also the pilot short with an alien chicken that is quite freaky, and I also learned that it was nominated for Academy Awards but lost to Wallace the Gromit at close shave, which is not as bad when you are competing with the short about a scary robot dog. Courage is probably the goodest boy there is in fiction, who is going through a mental breakdown every episode when fighting demons, ghosts, and ducks just to protect old people who live in the desert or in the middle of nowhere. I also like Muriel and Eustace for completely different reasons. All in all, Courage is one of the best CN shows of all time that I like, and I wished I watched more of it when it came out. This would not be complete if I didn't mention the Scooby-Doo crossover that came out in 2021. Excuse me? We tried to answer all the mysteries of the show. It's a weird premise, and the answer we got left us with even more questions. It doesn't ruin the show unlike another Scooby-Doo movie I know of. This is an S-tier show, and I won't hear the end of it if I put it lower than that. Now we reach Mike, Lou, and Aw, a show I don't care about in the slightest. I believe that 99% of people who see this video have never heard of Mike, Lou, and Aw. Before I discovered Sinbad the Sailor, I thought this show was very much forgotten, but it's much easier to find these episodes around the web. I learned that 2 out of the 3 creators are both called Mikhail, and that's the most interesting thing about the show. This show is very boring, and I can't even find anything else to say about the show. Every time I watch an episode, I feel like my energy is slowly fading. I don't care if you find the intro catchy. I've heard much better. Man, I'm ending this video on Mike, Lou, and fucking Aw, of all things. I hope in part 2, whenever that comes out, there won't be a show more boring than this. D for Days Nuts. Man, I love this era of Cartoon Network. Maybe it's all nostalgia talking, but I feel like everything here has aged well. There were a few episodes here that I watched for the first time, and my experience was not the worst thing ever. I didn't particularly like them, I could do without them, and I'm not gonna hate them with burning passion. Again, not a cartoon reviewer. So far, so good. That will be all for today, so I'll see you in part 2 for the 2000s. Again, whenever that comes out. Barney, your daughter is fucking fucked.